In probably what was their toughest test all year, this was a prove-it game for the Eagles. Now, previously they had prove-it games against the Bengals on the road, the Washington Commanders at home on a short week. Then they had the LA Rams across the country on Sunday Night Football. Well, another prove-it game came around. The Baltimore Ravens, down I-95, you're facing the reigning MVP, and it's a prove-it game. The Baltimore Ravens are known to be an elite football club. They're bullies. They know how to be physical against any one of their opponents. They play in the AFC North with plenty of physical divisional rivals. And Lamar Jackson has only lost to an NFC team once, and that was against the New York Giants in 2022. And right on cue, the Eagles started off slow. They trailed 9-0 midway through the second quarter. Their first quarter woes continued. That's been a common theme throughout this entire season. Yet, we've seen them take this boxer-like mentality. Throw a couple of jabs, they get a couple of body blows, and then eventually they knock you out. And that's exactly what happened in this game. Saquon Barkley is the closer. He's the knockout punch for the Philadelphia Eagles because he had a 25-yard touchdown scamper to basically ice the game in the fourth quarter. And yet again, he goes over the 100-yard mark, and now he's just a yard shy of 1,500 yards. And there's a chance that Saquon Barkley could break the Eagles record 3 games earlier than LaShawn Shady McCoy did in 2013. What Saquon has done obviously has changed life in Philadelphia. I mean, he's risen to becoming the best back in the league behind the best offensive line in the league, where they continue to wear you down, wear you out, and eventually just the floodgates open, the dam breaks, and Saquon busts loose for a game-clinching touchdown. And we've seen it now in 3 weeks in a row where they've trailed. They trailed to the Commanders. They trailed against the Rams, and yet again trailed against the Baltimore Ravens. But they figure out a way, somehow, some way, and eventually, like I said, those dams break, the floodgates open, and you find Saquon Barkley in the end zone for a game-clinching touchdown. Main takeaways from this game is that this defense is truly legit. And we know that the biggest pickup this offseason is Saquon Barkley. But let's also give some credit to the Philadelphia Eagles organization in finding a way to get Vic Fangio away from the Miami Dolphins and bringing him in as the defensive coordinator for the Eagles in 2025. With him being brought in, Howie Roseman picking up Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith last year in the first round of the draft, plus factor in Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Jalix Hunt, all of which had some impact in this game against the Ravens under the tutelage of Vic Fangio, has changed life in Philadelphia. This defense rounded the best NFL offense to just 12 points for basically 59 minutes. A garbage time touchdown helped out their stats, their yardage, etc. But for much of this game, it was a 24-12 ball game. And we talked about Jalen Carter, but also Jordan Davis, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, and Jalix Hunt have all been contributors now on a defensive line that's now without Brandon Graham. And they've controlled the line. They've been part of a team that helped bottle up Derrick Henry, who had 36 yards in the first quarter, which is quite a bit. But after that first quarter, he was held to just 46 for the remaining 3 quarters. And that starts up with the defensive line, but also that star linebacking duo. I mean, Zach Bond is playing like an all-pro. It's just there in the tape. He's playing sideline to sideline. He is a guy that Vic Fangio took a flyer on. He, in New Orleans, was just simply a special teamer and a little bit of an edge rushing guy, used in special packages. But under Vic Fangio, we've seen him blossom to an all-pro caliber linebacker. And Nakobe Dean, who has been relatively quiet in his first 2 years in the league with the Philadelphia Eagles, he's been a very consistent starter for the Eagles this year. And then in the secondary, you're coming into this game without Darius Slay. And then Reed Blankenship gets knocked out with a concussion halfway through the game. So you have 2 new starters in Isaiah Rodgers and then Tristan McCullum coming in at the safety spot. Well, it's still shored up because you have Quinion Mitchell, who is continuing to lock up receivers. He did a great job on Zay Flowers, only allowed 2 catches for 4 yards on the entire afternoon. Cooper DeJean is now the slot cornerback ace who did a good job. I mean, he had a one-on-one tackling clinic on Derrick Henry where he upended King Henry and threw him to the ground. That's textbook tackling right there. And in the safety spot, we're seeing consistent play out of CJ Gardner-Johnson throughout this entire season. After a shaky start, he's been good since the bye week, and that's really how this whole Eagles team has been since the bye week. This Eagles team is holding opponents to 15.3 points a game, with their latest performance against the league's #1 offense and the reigning MVP, like I said. And yes, in the box score, you'll see that the Ravens got good yardage and they were really good with moving the ball within the 20s. But when it came down to the red zone, in drives that mattered, they were just 1 for 4. And even if you factor in the garbage time touchdown in the last final seconds of the game, it was still 2 for 5 on the day. And we'll talk about Justin Tucker's struggles a little bit later, but still, we have to give credit to this Eagles defense that has changed the entire identity of this team than last year, around the time when they faced the San Francisco 49ers and they looked old, they looked slow. We saw Deebo Samuel score a hat trick of touchdowns, just outrunning the entire Philly defense and making a mockery out of Sean Desai's defensive schemes. Well, instead of getting Vic Fangio disciples, they went to the source themselves, Vic Fangio. They got him in as the DC. And so far, his adjustments, his coaching, and how he's been able to nurture this defense has been amazing to see. It's been monumental to the Eagles' 8-game winning streak so far. Both sides of the ball continue to excel, and this team is looking like a real juggernaut on a day that they didn't even have Devontae Smith, who missed this game due to a hamstring injury. He'll be back sometime soon, and that's just another piece that we'll see being added into this Eagles team. So when this team is going to be ready, and I think they'll be healthy come postseason time, but they're zeroing in on the NFC East. They'll probably wrap that up in a couple of weeks, and then they're really focused on the 1 seed, because the way Detroit looked against the Chicago Bears was a little bit shaky, and their injuries are certainly catching up to them. The Detroit Lions have 17 players on IR, and that includes several key pieces on the defensive side. So we all know that the NFL is about the war of attrition, and while Detroit has looked great, and I still think Detroit should be favorites coming out of the NFC, but don't be so fast to dismiss the Philadelphia Eagles as being a team that can be right up there amongst the NFC's elite. And I'm really thinking that the championship game would be the Lions-Eagles.